We live in a world that's, buzzing with connection. Technology lets us reach anyone, anywhere, almost immediately. And yet, look around, or even just look inside yourself, and you see we're still wrestling with these really fundamental questions.
The same ones people have asked for
Right.
forever, really. About ourselves, about relationships.
Why do we keep repeating the same patterns? Why is it still so hard sometimes?
It's a paradox, isn't it? We've figured out so much about the outside world, but our inner lives, especially relationships, still feel so complicated, so messy.
Why are we drawn to certain people? Why do the same old arguments just keep coming up?
Exactly. And that kind of persistent mystery is what led us to this really interesting book.
Right. It's called Living on Automatic: How Emotional Conditioning Shapes Our Lives and Relationships. It's by two psychiatrists, Humber B. Martin and Christine B.L. Adams.
And it offers this powerful framework, maybe a bit provocative too. It's based on, well, decades of their clinical work. And it suggests that a lot of our behavior, especially how we handle relationships, isn't really about conscious choices we make right now.
It's more
Automatic.
exactly deeply ingrained patterns. Automatic.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive then is to unpack this core idea they have, this emotional conditioning. How they say it starts incredibly early, like really early.
Yeah.
And how it shapes us into one of only two basic emotional roles,
Right. And these rules essentially put us on autopilot.
which often, maybe usually, causes friction, difficulty.
It's really about looking under the hood, beneath all the individual quirks and choices we think we're making.
To see this underlying structure.
Yeah, like an emotional operating system we inherit almost.
Yeah.
And it just quietly runs the show in our lives and relationships.
Okay, so let's dig into where this theory even came from. Dr. Martin, back in the 1960s, started noticing something with his patients.
He saw all sorts of emotional problems, obviously, but he started seeing these recurring patterns and how people related to each other, despite all the different stories.
Yeah, despite the unique details, there were these surprising similarities in the kinds of relationship issues people had and the way they habitually reacted.
And existing theories didn't quite explain that underlying predictability.
Not fully, no. Not this kind of structure beneath the, the apparent chaos of it all.
So this wasn't overnight. It developed over, 4 decades?
Yeah, about 40 years, observing nearly 2,000 patients, working with colleagues, especially Dr. Adams.
And that led to this concept of emotional conditioning.
At its heart, yeah. The idea is we're emotionally shaped not like school lessons, but through these consistent, subtle messages.
From parents, caretakers.
Primarily, yes. And crucially, during the first 2 or 3 years of life. That's the critical window they identify.
And this is important. It's not about parents meaning to do this, right? Not conscious lessons.
Not at all. It's way deeper than just words.
Okay.
Think about that example they use. A dad tells his toddler, stay seated in the cart.
Right.
But then the kid stands up and the dad laughs.
So the spoken rule is one thing.
But the unconscious message the child gets is totally different. Something like, oh, rules aren't serious, or breaking rules gets a fun reaction.
And the book argues those unspoken, consistent messages are what really stick.
Yes, they get recorded indelibly, the authors say, and they often override whatever's being said out loud.
Wow. That's a big idea right there. It's not what parents say they teach, but the consistent vibe, the emotional cues they send out without even thinking about it.
Exactly. That's what forms this early blueprint.
And this blueprint then determines how a child learns to figure out emotional reality, how they're supposed to act.
Basically, yeah. It sets the stage for their developing emotional personality, as the book puts it.
Okay, so now we get to the really stark part.
Mm-hmm.
After watching these patterns for so long, Martin and Adams basically said this conditioning channels people into one of just two main emotional roles.
Right. This is really the core structure of their theory, these two distinct complementary patterns.
Which they call omnipotent and impotent.
Omnipotent and impotent, yeah. And these dictate how people approach relationships, emotional stuff.
Let's break those down. So the omnipotent role, that's someone conditioned to believe they're the capable one, the provider in the relationship.
Exactly. They feel responsible for everyone else's feelings, their problems, they're always doing for others.
Often forgetting their own needs.
Often, yeah, neglecting themselves. They become the go-to problem solvers, the caretakers.
Like that example, Carolyn, who took over the family business and then married someone described as a needy law student.
Right. She basically carried the relationship. Or Tom, who felt he had to fix his marriage all by himself.
Until he learned differently later on.
Yes. They're conditioned to give. That's the key function.
Okay. And the flip side is the impotent role.
Mm-hmm.
These are people conditioned to believe they're helpless,
Yeah.
incapable when it comes to emotion.
That's the idea. They learn their job is to demand constant care, constant attention from others.
But they find it hard, or maybe they're unwilling to give that care back.
Largely unable, yes. They become the dependents in the emotional equation. Conditioned to receive.
Like Seth in the book. Indulged as a kid, struggled with jobs, moved back home.
Yeah, and his parents basically structured his life for him. Then, in marriage, he expected his wife to do the same kind of catering.
And that other couple, Andrea and Andy, both impotent.
That's a fascinating case, yeah. Always fighting, the book says, but drawn together by this kind of mutual self-admiration of their helplessness, maybe. Very demanding dynamic.
And the kicker is, parents don't consciously decide this.
No, they unknowingly pass these roles on. It's just an automatic reflection of their own conditioning playing out with their child.
And it's not black and white, right? It's a spectrum.
Definitely a continuum, from mild tendencies to really severe conditioning.
But the book argues once that role gets locked in early on, it tends to stick.
It solidifies, yeah. Acts like this core mold shaping the personality and how you automatically interact in relationships for life.
And that's where living on automatic comes from.
Precisely. Because it's so deep and unconscious, we handle relationships with these knee-jerk reactions, ingrained stuff.
Instead of pausing, thinking, responding to what's actually happening now.
Right. It feels efficient, maybe. The automatic way is always there.
Crick.
But the cost is huge. Authenticity, real connection. You're basically running on software design when you were 2.
Oof. Yeah.
And this automatic processing, driven by these roles, leads to what they call a skewed outlook.
An automatic, illogical system with a degree of unreality. That sounds serious.
It means your internal compass for navigating emotions is just
Off.
fundamentally miscalibrated.
Leading to mistakes.
Consistent errors in how you judge things, how you interact.
Okay, they list some specific effects or distortions that come from this. First one, snap judgments.
Yeah, this is judging people really fast based on superficial stuff.
Like their job, their car, how they dress.
Exactly. Instead of taking time to see who they really are emotionally, your conditioned lens just instantly slots them into a category based on the outside.
Okay. Then there's magical thinking, which looks different for each role.
Right. Omnipotents might magically believe they can actually meet impossible emotional demands. They take on way too much.
Thinking they can fix everything for everyone.
Yeah. And impotence. They might think others should just read their minds.
And give them what they need without even being asked.
Or without them putting in any effort, yeah.
Like Rodrigo wanting that sports car just because he mentioned it to his wife once.
Classic impotent magical thinking, according to the book. Just saying you want something should make it appear. Skips right over communication, effort, reality.
Okay. Another big one, projections.
Uh-huh. This is unconsciously taking your own unresolved stuff, your own issues,
Yeah.
and sticking them onto someone else.
And the most basic projection is just assuming your way of seeing things is normal.
Exactly. Your conditioned view feels like the only view.
But if everyone's conditioned into one of two different roles,
Then most people are constantly projecting their world onto others who are operating completely differently.
that sounds like a recipe for confusion.
Endless confusion. Remember Ken, the guy who hurt his own eye?
Yeah, that was disturbing.
And then blamed his ex, said she hit him. It shows how extreme the distortion can get. You're not even dealing with the real person anymore.
You're dealing with this projected version you've created. Wow.
And tied into that, rationalizations.
The excuses we make.
Plausible sounding excuses, yeah. For behavior that's actually driven by our conditioning, our hidden needs and fears.
It lets us justify things that don't really make sense otherwise.
Like Bob spending way too much on Katie. He needed to be the omnipotent provider, even if it hurt him financially.
So he cooked up a story in his head to make it okay.
Right. Then, double standards.
Applying different rules to different people.
Especially people close to us. Treating them in ways we'd never treat, say, a colleague or acquaintance.
But feeling totally justified because it serves our conditioned role.
Like parents treating siblings completely differently, maybe showering one with affection and being cold to another.
And genuinely believing it's fair in the moment.
Because their own conditioned needs are dictating their perception of what's fair.
Which flows right into different perceptions.
Yeah. Two people, especially from different roles, can see the exact same thing and interpret it totally differently.
Leading to massive misunderstandings.
They use that example of watching a kid near a strange dog.
Right. The omnipotent sees the whole picture, scans for danger.
Yeah, their caretaker role kicks in. They see the dog's mood, the kid's reaction, potential problems, everything. Always scanning.
While the impotent might
Right.
zone out.
Or fixate on something random like the dog's collar, or maybe not even really register the whole scene because their focus is inward, on their own feelings or needs.
Okay. And the last one they list is this deep unwillingness to accept ideas or advice.
Especially about emotional stuff, yeah. If it clashes with your role, you resist it.
How does that play out?
Well, omnipotents might be okay with factual info, but they really struggle with emotional advice that challenges their need to be the caretaker.
Like advice suggesting they need to receive care themselves.
Exactly. And impotence. They might talk a lot, but often it's more about getting attention or just venting.
Not really about taking in advice that would require them to change or put in effort.
Their conditioning makes them resistant to that kind of problem solving.
Okay, so all these individual distortions,
Yeah,
they really collide in our relationships.
that's where it gets really dramatic. The book spends a lot of time here, starting with marriage and partnerships.
They point out the pretty low success rate for marriage, right? And how even long ones can be disappointing.
Yeah, and their theory offers this, well, kind of bleak but compelling explanation.
Which is,
That the intense feeling of falling in love that often brings couples together, especially omnipotent, impotent pairs.
which they say is the most common pairing.
Yes, the most common. That feeling isn't really about seeing and loving the actual person.
It's more about the role.
A powerful, emotional, even physical affinity for the complementary role. It clicks.
So the omnipotent is drawn to the impotent's neediness because it lets them be the caretaker.
Mm-hmm. Gives them a stage.
And the impotent feels safe and taken care of by the omnipotent's drive to provide and fix things.
It feels like a perfect match. Made in heaven, almost.
That-
But the very thing that pulls them together so strongly.
Is also the source of future problems.
Exactly. That's the deep insight. Once the initial honeymoon phase fades, the demands of those roles start to rub.
The omnipotent gets worn out from all the giving.
Exhausted. And the impotent, when their needs aren't instantly met anymore, they often escalate their demands.
What about other pairings? Omnipotent.
Omnipotent. They mentioned those can work, potentially, if the couple consciously learns to give and receive care mutually, but the risk is they just end up criticizing each other's caretaking performance, nitpicking.
And impotent, like Andrea and Andy.
Often unstable, volatile, lots of fighting, maybe mutual indulgence, but they tend to need a lot of outside support because neither is conditioned to be the stable provider.
The case studies really bring this to life, don't they? Bob and Katie's relationship falling apart.
Yeah, the omnipotent-impotent decay. Or Melanie and Lucas, the omnipotent pair learning mutual support.
And Andrea and Andy's constant conflict.
Vivid examples of the roles in action.
And when these dynamics become unbearable, divorce often follows.
Right. And the book stresses it's rarely just one person's fault. It's the toxic interaction between the two roles hitting a wall.
And those roles don't just vanish when people split up.
Oh, no. They often get even more intense during the divorce process.
They make a really interesting point about sympathy, too.
Yeah, how often the impotent partner gets seen as the victim, the vulnerable one, and gets a lot of support.
While the omnipotent, seen as the strong, capable one, is expected to just cope and gets very little support.
Exactly. Which can be incredibly isolating.
And this really impacts kids, especially with shared custody.
Hugely problematic, because now the parents' different conditioned styles are right out in the open in separate houses.
So the omnipotent parent might be very structured, maybe even controlling.
Versus the impotent parent style, which might be unstructured, disorganized, or maybe rigidly focused on their own needs, not the child's.
And the kids are caught bouncing between these two very different worlds.
Creates massive confusion and instability for them. The example of Rachel and Bruce navigating that 50-50 split between an ODAD and an iMom really shows the practical impact.
Okay, what about affairs? The book links those to conditioning, too.
It suggests there are often attempts, maybe unconscious ones, to fix the emotional imbalance in the main relationship.
So seeking the kind of support or validation that the role-based marriage isn't providing.
Right. Less about just sex or wanting to destroy things, more about trying to get unmet emotional needs met, however dysfunctionally.
Another way the automatic system tries to self-correct, maybe?
Could be seen that way. And substance abuse fits in here, too.
How?
Substances become tools to either maintain the role or escape its pressures.
So omnipotents might use alcohol or drugs to cope with the stress of always giving, or numb their own neglected needs.
Yeah, and impotents might use them to avoid responsibility, reinforce their helplessness, stay inert.
Like Caitlin, the omnipotent, drinking to escape marriage stress.
Or Henri, the impotent, using pills so he didn't have to deal with household stuff. The substance supports the conditioned pattern.
And it all comes back around in parenting, doesn't it?
It's the clearest way the cycle continues. Parents are on their own automatic pilot,
And they unknowingly condition their kids into the same roles.
often repeating exactly what their own parents did without realizing it.
And if two parents have different conditioned styles,
Conflict is almost guaranteed when it comes to raising kids. Like Erica, the impotent mom,
resenting her omnipotent husband John for paying attention to the baby,
because she wanted the attention. Her conditioned need clashed directly with his parenting instinct and the baby's needs.
wow, it really is a cycle passed down automatically.
Across generations, driven by this unconscious stuff.
So, if we're all living on automatic, stuck in these roles that cause so many problems, how does the book link this to actual emotional illness?
Well, the argument is that many common emotional illnesses, things like anxiety, depression, even phobias,
Yeah.
they aren't just random. They're often the direct result of all the built-up stress and unresolved conflict from these automatic relationship patterns, just overwhelming our ability to cope.
And because the cause, the conditioning is unconscious.
It's incredibly hard to figure out why you feel so bad. Leads to confusion, maybe even physical symptoms that doctors can't explain.
So it's not like a chemical imbalance starting it, in their view.
They differentiate it from mental illnesses involving psychosis. They see emotional illnesses primarily rooted in these relationship-based conditioned ways of seeing and reacting to emotional reality.
Okay, but is there hope?
Yeah.
Can we change this stuff?
Yes, that's the crucial part. The book argues these patterns can be changed
How?
through a specific kind of therapy they call dynamic psychotherapy.
And the process is called deconditioning.
Deconditioning, yeah. But they're very clear. It's not a quick fix. Not easy.
Takes effort, motivation,
Significant motivation, yeah.
courage.
Courage, willingness to look at yourself honestly, and lots of consistent self-observation.
So how does it work practically?
It starts with becoming aware, noticing your automatic patterns.
Identifying the triggers.
Yeah,
Like what situations or which people set off those old reactions.
exactly. And then pausing to really observe that automatic response as it's happening. What does it feel like?
And then the hard part.
The critical step.
Yeah.
Consciously stopping it. Don't just do the usual thing. Hit pause.
Okay, then what?
Then you actually think. You assess the situation now, gather real information from the present moment, not the past conditioning.
And consciously decide on a different way to respond. A more thoughtful way.
Yes. And then, crucially, communicate that new approach to others.
They boil it down to 5 steps, right?
Yeah. 1, think about your triggers. 2, observe your conditioned responses when triggered. 3, stop those automatic reactions. 4, think, get info, decide on a new approach. 5, communicate that new way.
It sounds demanding.
It is. You're challenging your deepest habits. But the authors argue it leads to this profound shift.
Towards what?
A less automatic life, more balanced, more conscious, where you can actually see yourself and others clearly based on reality, not old conditioning.
And it's not just for people hitting rock bottom.
No, they suggest the insights, the process can benefit anyone who wants to understand themselves better and have more real relationships.
Those examples of change, like Morgan dealing with her grief to change her parenting.
Or Tom learning to stand up for his own needs after his divorce.
They show it's possible.
Difficult, yes, but absolutely possible.
You know, this whole framework, it does offer a really logical, clear way to think about why we struggle so much in relationships.
It moves beyond just blaming people or simple explanations. It gets at the underlying programming.
And the real power isn't just understanding the why.
No, it's the potential it points to, the possibility of conscious change.
Choosing a different path than the one laid down when you were tiny.
Yeah, moving towards relationships built on genuine connection, real self-awareness, not just playing out an old unconscious role.
So, wrapping this up, what does this deep dive into emotional conditioning, into living on automatic, mean for you listening right now?
Maybe as you go through your day, interacting with people, family, partners, friends.
Start noticing what automatic reactions pop up, what familiar patterns emerge in certain situations or with certain people.
What might shift, what might change in those moments if you could just pause, even for a second.
Catch that conditioned urge, stop it, and then deliberately think before you respond. Choose something different.
How might understanding these ideas impotent change how you look back at your own history, your family dynamics?
Or how you understand the challenges you're facing right now in your relationships.
It's really an invitation, isn't it, to start the fascinating, maybe tough, but rewarding work of observing your own life on automatic?